The world felt wrong the moment Mark Peterson opened his eyes. The clock on the wall flickered 6:59 a.m., but there was no sound. No car engines, no sprinklers, no neighbors yelling at their kids to hurry for school. The silence pressed against his eardrums like thick fog. He stepped out onto the porch in his t-shirt and bare feet, expecting the familiar hum of the cul-de-sac. But every house around them, neatly aligned, manicured lawns, identical mailboxes, stood utterly still. A cold mist clung to the pavement. "Mark?" Julia's voice quivered behind him. She stood in the doorway, wrapped in her robe. "Where is everyone?" It was true. The Thompsons usually had their porch light on. The Carter's dog always barked at the mail truck around this time. But now, every door was closed. Cars were still in driveways. A child's bike lay in the street, its front wheels slowly spinning, as if abandoned mid-ride. Mark took a cautious step forward. The air smelled faintly metallic. A low, distant hum came from somewhere underground, like a generator, or something buried beneath, and then they saw it. On every front door in the neighborhood, there was a white sheet of paper taped carefully, fluttering lightly in the morning breeze. Mark approached the nearest house and peeled the paper off the door. His hands trembled when he read the message. "You're next!" The letters weren't printed. They were smeared, black ink, uneven, as if someone had written them with shaking hands. Or claws. Julia rushed back inside to grab her phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi. Even the landline emitted only static. Their TV displayed a looping emergency broadcast symbol, except no alert came through. Mark checked the neighbors' doors. Each house was unlocked. Inside the Thompsons' kitchen, plates of breakfast still steamed as if abandoned just minutes earlier. A coffee mug still dripped on the counter. Upstairs, beds made, closets open, lights on, but no people. Not a trace. "Someone's playing a sick joke," Mark muttered, though he didn't believe it. When they reached the end of the street, they saw a black SUV parked against the curb. Engine running, headlights off. Inside, no one. The back doors were wide open, like something had crawled out. Then Julia screamed. Across the hood of the SUV was a single, bloody handprint, fresh. That night, the neighborhood transformed. The mist grew thicker, turning the cul-de-sac into a pale gray corridor. Wind didn't blow, yet porch swings creaked softly on their own. Mark sat by the living room window with a baseball bat in his lap. At 2:41 a.m., the first sound broke the silence. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching against the gravel outside. He peeked through the blinds. A shadow passed across the Carters' front yard, tall and uneven, moving like it had too many joints. Then came a knock. Not on their door, but on the house across the street. "Knock! Knock! Knock!" The sound echoed unnaturally, like it came from inside his own head. "Mark!" Julia whispered, clutching their son Noah. "There's someone in the kitchen!" They froze. The sound of something dragging against the tile floor filled the house. Slow, scraping, deliberate. Mark gripped the bat tighter and stepped into the kitchen. But no one was there. Only the back door, which now had 3 long vertical claw marks carved into the wood. By morning, they decided to search the HOA office at the edge of the neighborhood. The glass door was unlocked. Inside, everything was too neat, too perfect. Not a chair was out of place. Mark pulled open a filing cabinet, and it moved. Behind it was a door he'd never seen before. They stepped into a narrow concrete room. A single table sat under a flickering light. On it was a thick binder. The cover read, "Occupancy Protocol." Inside, hundreds of pages listed residents' names, arrival dates, and something called phases. At the back of the binder, Mark found their family name circled in red ink. Beneath it, "Final phase, 3:33 a.m." "What does that mean?" Julia whispered. Before Mark could answer, the lights in the HOA office went out. A low, distorted voice spoke from the intercom overhead. "Do not run. It's already here." Back home, an old emergency radio Mark kept in the basement suddenly switched on by itself. The broadcast was barely audible under static, but the message was clear. "Do not leave your house. Do not answer the door. It's not them anymore. The Petersons backed away as the house lights flickered violently. Outside, all the street lamps snapped on at once, flooding the cul-de-sac in harsh white light. And then they saw it. A tall figure stood motionless at the end of their driveway. No face, no clothes, just a shape like a cutout in the world. Julia held Noah close. "Mark, it's not moving." But the figure wasn't standing. It was floating. 3:33 a.m. The first bang on the door shattered the silence. Bang, 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 Julia screamed. Mark grabbed the bat. The sound changed to soft, polite knocking. Then a voice that sounded exactly like their missing neighbor, Mrs. Carter, whispered through the woods. "Open up. It's cold out here." Mark's blood ran cold. Mrs. Carter was gone. The whisper turned into scraping along the walls, circling the house like a predator. Then the power went out. "Basement," Mark hissed. "Now!" They descended into the basement, clutching flashlights. Mark moved an old rug aside and found a metal trapdoor they'd never noticed before. Noah whispered, "Dad, that wasn't here yesterday." They opened it. A staircase led down into a long tunnel lined with buzzing fluorescent lights. The air smelled of rust and something old. The tunnel led to a massive underground room filled with CCTV monitors. Every house in the neighborhood was displayed on a screen, empty, silent, except for one. Their house. On the feed, something tall and shapeless stood in their living room, tilting its head slowly toward the camera. In a far corner of the facility, they found file cabinets labeled Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. Inside the folders, photographs of residents, each one marked with a red stamp, removed. Blueprints revealed the entire neighborhood was constructed over an abandoned government experiment site, an attempt to contain an entity that could mimic human forms. The HOA was a cover. Julia's hands shook as she read a report aloud. Phase 3 requires isolation of the control family. All others have been absorbed. Then the intercom above them crackled to life. "Congratulations, you're the last family." The tunnel lights went out. A distant scream echoed through the concrete halls. High-pitched, human but not quite. Something moved in the darkness. Heavy. Wet. A figure emerged, wearing the face of their neighbor, Tom, but upside down. The mouth stretched too wide. The body jittered as if it didn't quite know how to stand. "Run," Mark whispered. They fled through the tunnel, alarms blaring. The creature moved faster than light should allow, crawling along the walls, its laughter melting into static. Noah slipped. The thing lunged. Mark swung the bat, shattering its head like glass, but instead of blood, smoke poured out. The face reformed. It smiled. They reached an emergency hatch and climbed out, into a forest. No houses, no cul-de-sac. Just trees. Julia turned. The tunnel entrance was gone. Hours later, they stumbled to a gas station on the highway, but when they tried to explain, the clerk frowned. "There's no neighborhood out there," he said. "Hasn't been for 30 years. That land's empty." Noah pointed behind them. A single white paper was taped to the door. "Welcome home." And from the dark tree line came the sound, knock, knock, knock.